Whoa. I think the big truck just went by my window. And since I'm back being a fairy, I have to deal with the, how do you call it, like the environmental hazards, the sounds of the city, because it's hot and I don't have any other means of cooling off, so my window is slightly open so you can hear the sounds of the city. Hello everyone to another week of comic books. Whoa, this is the second one of 2026 and man, it's hella loaded. So I'm gonna go quickly into it. Just gonna mention one thing. Don't clickbait me with cancellations, okay? I mean, I don't go for news that much, but of course I follow the websites that do the news for comic books, and of course it's news piece, or like it's something newsworthy when a title gets cancelled. Of course I get that, but don't clickbait me with it. It's like, we think it's gonna happen. If a title is cancelled, just say so. Don't go like, we believe this title might be cancelled. This is regarding to one book that I really like, which is Black Cat, and I really like that book. And the whole like, it's gonna get cancelled by the 10-issue curse of Marvel. Oh, fuck that. I mean, if it's cancelled, so be it, man. That's why I completely forgot about Eddie Brock's Carnage, because it got cancelled at issue 10 and I didn't know. I thought it just disappeared, man. Just like many other books, they come and go. But whatever. This week is particularly loaded. There's news stories, some really interesting points to pick up some of these titles, and like, I don't know, this week is gonna be loaded. So let's dive right into it. First, we go back to our dear Action Comics, rewriting the younger years of young Superman. Now, the cover might be a little bit deceiving. It's not like Superman is going to like join the army, which is something that it's kind of like a strange point right now in the US. I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so interested in recommending this book. I'm not North American, or gringo, but everybody in the world knows that they are going through some shit. Well, they've been going through some shit for some years, and they are using. I don't want to say this is intentional, but young Superman dealing with quote unquote organized military. It seems topical, isn't it? I think what they've done with Action Comics, like trying to challenge young Superman to sort of modernized issues for a young man to go through, it's quite interesting. You know, this is not strictly retconning. I don't think it is, and I wouldn't consider it to be like that. But he's like, okay, I'm gonna take these idealistic characters and I'm gonna put them in quote unquote modern situations for a young teen to be in, and I'm gonna show you how would they act. Man, I really wish they would do with Superman what they did with Absolute Batman. You know, like nowadays, I don't even think the writers, that was Philip Warren. I always WJ PW. But anyways, I don't think they knew the situation the US was gonna be in when they wrote Batman breaking the arm of a law enforcement officer. Or maybe they did. I mean, they live up there after all. But anyways, new story arc, quote unquote new story arc for Action Comics, young Superman dealing with the military and with General Lane, so early connection to it. Really interesting. I think the Action Comics the stories they've been doing with Superman. They've been really interesting. Not totally compromising, so they don't go like crazy for it. They don't go to the extremes, but that's fine. Still goes for a good read and a good update for the character, or like redate. I don't know. Next. So another chapter, right? Yeah, another chapter in the Alice like after saga. Can you call it like that? By Dan Panosian. So basically, it's another volume of what happened with Alice after Wonderland. They have taken it to several extremes, like making this assumption or this idea that everything that Alice went through is a delusion, like she was in the madhouse. Is that offensive? I don't think so. So the good thing to me about this title in general, or this book in general, is how they sort of, I imagine this like a tattoo machine, like with the thin needle, like putting ink into it, like inserting sort of like the mystic part of Alice in Wonderland, while kind of like holding this weird, delicate, strange balance between sanity and insanity. I think this is the way the Alice in Wonderland story should have been like made into an adult form from the beginning. I remember getting cinescopes, like that was Alice in Wonderland, right? But cinescope had this whole gory horror movie kind of like when it first came out, Alice in Wonderland by Cinescope. I really liked it. It had this horror element to it, and it was super violent. It was kind of like 90s all like. Can we coin the term like 90s comics love? That's kind of like popular right now. But this Alice after, forever after, it has its own flair. It's way smarter. I don't want to say, oh, this one's smart and this one's dumb, but this is just more complex. And honestly, I'm honestly curious where they're going with this new one. Um, can Alice be any crazier? Can she have any more issues? Like forever doomed by the curse of Wonderland. The whole Wonderland is a pretty fucked up thing, anyways. So if you're gonna see it as a curse, might as well. So another chapter in the Alice Forever, or like the Alice After, well, another adventure for Alice, psychological traumas after leaving Wonderland, which is always a good, jolly, depressing, weird time. Alice Forever After by Boom Studios. Next. Shoo! I've said it before, I'm not a good Aquaman fan. I'm not the greatest Aquaman fan. But they brought up his grown up daughter, which before the whole KO and time lapse event was a baby. So they just jump started it. It felt really weird to me. I feel like they are just kind of like force feeding the daughters and heirs of all of these characters, especially the main ones. So Wonder Woman was really well made. Aquaman's not so much. I think that the Andy, how she's called, like they brought her up, like just grown up out of the blue, and not only that, but apparently she grew up like with an attitude, So we keep her whole uh, troubled teens, and well, I don't know how old she is right now. But anyways, alongside all of that, Mera kind of like died in a way. So now that the time is fucked out, they're bringing her back. Whatever. I'm not a big fan of Aquaman, as I said, but I really want to be in to this character to know what they are about. in case they're not gonna replace the originals. They won't do it. But in case they gain more prominence, as John Kent did, as Damian did, I don't know if Easy is gonna do it for Wonder Woman, because none of the other Wonder Girls have taken such a big spot as John Kent and Damian Wayne have done it before. So perhaps Easy is gonna be the exception. But anyways, I'm recommending this DC KO tie-in to get more context into Andy, Aquaman and Mera's daughter, who is now a grown up. This is gonna be a context a context issue, kind of like to give the character a more complex vibe, not just as someone that poof suddenly appeared and we're supposed to care for her, you know. So even if you don't like Aquaman, I think this is a good title to keep an eye on and stay. How can you say it? Like stay on the loop for this. Is it inheritors? Like this new generation of the main DC Justice League kind of like dudes. So Aquaman, part of the DC KO event, which is coming out to a close not so long. What? I don't know, but it's closing in soon. So next. Finally, we are at Avengers Legacy 800, and again, I have not hidden the fact that I'm not too keen into the current Meridian, again, Kang storyline, whatever. But I'm not just gonna say you gotta read because it's Avengers 800. The story hasn't been that good. Like the last time, I kind of like saw what they were doing with the whole what is it called, the Twilight Court, the Kang's Avengers that he created, that seemingly they are like inspired by King Arthur and whatnot. They were pretty lame characters in general. They were just trying to contrast with the Avengers. Now, I'm not recommending this because this is just 800. It has a story by Bendis, who is coming back to write the title. No, I'm recommending it because I need this to mean something. I need to see the ending to the whole Meridian storyline. And I know, I have a feeling that it's gonna be kind of like an ideological reset for the Avengers. I think that Avengers, out of all the Marvel titles, they always struggle because they have to be in the balance between doing great stories, like epic stories, because it's the Avengers, but at the same time they need to mean something. As a group of heroes, the Avengers need to be more meaningful, and I think that reflection out of the Twilight Court, or whatever they call, I think that reflection is working into something. As I said, something not story-wise, but ideological for the Avengers. So if we can end 800 and McKay's run with like, okay, and the Avengers mean this, yeah, let's go, it will be a decent enough ending. Plus, if you have the money, I think you should get all the covers and everything because it looks so cool. Avengers 800. Next. So we are closing to the end of the second big story of Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, the Rite of Spring, the one of the most awarded books of last year, published by IDW, right? The story of this serial killer, Cute Bear, who lives in the in a quiet town where nobody suspects that she's the killer. In this second story, the sister of one of her previous victims came to research or like investigate her brother's passing, and they have pretty much using the whole story this time to build up to this moment. They keep doing this great thing where they keep giving the serial killer, it's not like you empathize with her, but they keep giving the serial killer like this layer after layer of feelings and suspicion, and like, for some reason I've asked before, what is the real weight of anthropomorphized characters, animals as people? And here they just, it's a masterclass. Here they nailed it, because even if you see many movies and like documentaries where you have serial killers, and they sort of like live this double life, right? But you are supposed to believe that they are normal people until they aren't. For some reason, in movies and even in real life, you don't feel like that much, like many times. You know, it's like this guy looks crazy, and he was always crazy, like the Charles Manson types. Like, it might be a hindsight thing, but you see their faces, and you're like, yeah, I was kind of like suspicious. This guy was weird, you know. Here between you and me, I think one of my neighbors might be like that. It's way too weird. But anyways, the way they portrayed it here is perfect. It really makes you believe that the main character is innocent. Is done in such a, it's so good, man. With just a couple of looks, like a couple of gestures, for a medium like comics to achieve that, in between the writing and the art, is just amazing. So we're coming now to a close of this. We've been promised big revelations, so might as well pick it up and see what these revelations are. Because in the end, why do we read and why do we see all the stories of true crime and serial killers in any format that we do? To see the end of it. Are they gonna pay for their crimes? Are they gonna be discovered? How will their idealistic view of the world, in which they are either protagonists or like, I don't know, they're like creating justice, they are like doing the right, I don't know, how will a serial killer's world crumble against the weight of reality and civilness? You can call it. Anyways, that's Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, Rite of Spring, issue 5, coming out to a close. Next, I did a small review of One World Under Doom in kind of like a parallel way. But anyways, the end, kind of like the fallout of One World Under Doom, has been great, because it's creating this doomsday kind of like scenario for the next event, like shrouded in mystery. You never really expect Doom's stuff to run out. Like, you never do. It seems like there's always something new, and by the way they have built the character, nothing is ever really surprising. It's like you say, like, oh, it turns out Doom had like this magical thing hidden up his ass, and you go like, oh, that makes sense. They are building Doom's like kind of like mythical legacy after his downfall. He's not dead yet, again, but they are building this whole sort of mythology post Doom. It's so interesting what they did with Valeria Richards and the whole legacy of Doom. Well, for those of you who don't know, after One World Under Doom, Doctor Doom inherited everything he had to Valeria Richards, and that is one of the big plots going through Fantastic Four titles and everything that they're building towards Doom. So you gotta pick up Dungeons of Doom, new mysteries and new lore, and like, I don't know. Doom has become one of these great, interesting characters by the mere fact that he's endless in the things he can do, and in sort of like the mythical status of all of his endeavors. You know, all the other big baddies in Marvel, they always have like a topic. Now that we're talking about Meridian in Avengers, it's like, yeah, time travel again, yeah, okay. But Doom is such a multifaceted, that's a word, right? Multifaceted character he has, and they are building him properly for what comes next. And after seeing him fall in one war under Doom, you wouldn't expect them to dive right into Doom again. But like, I guess we have a little thing called Avengers Doomsday coming by the end of the year, and Marvel, they are no fools, so we're probably getting a lot of Doom from here to the end of the year. Mm. They have been doing it correctly and in a really fun way, so I have no issue with that. Dungeons of Doom, number 1. Next. So, one of the things about the Green Lantern Corps, I really enjoy the Starbreaker Supremacy, the whole saga. I've said it before. Now they reset it, and now they're like kind of like reintroducing the emotional spectrum, and that's the whole thing. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. They reset it, the whole emotional spectrum after that event, and now I said it like probably a dozen times. I'm not, and I'm not still a big Green Lantern fan, but like that storyline kept me coming, and that sounded kind of weird, right? Kept me coming back to the Green Lanterns, and now I'm invested. Now I'm invested because from that breaking of the emotional spectrum into the reintroduction of it and into like having this hierarchy be challenge but being led by the green, to me that's really interesting. And they're going that way with the Green Lantern Corps. As I mentioned before, the Green Lantern main title is all about Hal Jordan again, so you can skip that one. But getting to this one, it's great. It's great when a previous story kind of like captures your attention, and it's so fun and it's so intense that you literally want to know what happens next. And I want to know what happens with the emotional spectrum, which, even if I'm not a fan, I think it's a really interesting concept. It's a really interesting concept that I think sometimes it gets overlooked by, I don't know, big fights and big events. But like, these are people weaponizing the emotions. That is some interesting stuff. So how they're gonna frame it now that they are all under like the leadership of the green, pretty interesting. So Green Lantern Corps, not necessarily a new story arc, but it's fresh enough for you to jump right into it. Next, we've come finally to the moment where I like to think Marvel Rivals had make like the impact on the main comic books. So Knull is coming back after a really underwhelming disappearance. It's not like the King in Black event was bad, but let's think about it. Just in just a couple of years, both Knull and Eddie Brock went from being the headliners to nobodies, and now Knull is beginning like the next sort of like event for symbiotes. And I've mentioned before, and I don't want to say we all know, but like we know he's gonna be challenged by Hela. That was in the news, so it's not a spoiler. And I actually don't know if that happened before Marvel Rivals did it in the game. But anyways, Knull was such a big character. He like sort of did and undid a lot with symbionts. Before Knull, we had this idea of symbiotes being retconned during Venom Space Knight. We sort of knew that the symbionts were the good guys. They weren't bad guys. They were good guys. And then they changed it by introducing Knull, and making him the god of the symbiotes, and then symbiotes were bad again. But after the King in Black event ended and Knull quote unquote died and Eddie Brock took over, the symbiotes were okay again. You know, it's a weird thing, but regardless, when you create a character like Knull, you can have like low stakes stories attached to him. I'm not entirely sure what this whole Hela thing is gonna be like. I have the notion from Rivals, but I really have avoided reading more synopses for the comic version of it. So it's you gotta read it then. Let's read it in real time. What the hell is he gonna be doing? What does it mean for the symbiotes? And I don't know. Maybe they're gonna discount the skins in Rivals for this whole event. But anyway, Knull is coming back, written by Al Ewing and Tom Waltz. So let's see what happens. Maybe we'll get a better ending to the King in Black situation. And like a slight note or like a footnote, I'm not that much of a fan of the character either. It's just like I'm a god, bleh. So it's like simplistic characters. So if they're gonna make him interact with Hela, maybe something's gonna happen, something good for both characters, because we haven't seen Hela in the mainstream comics for a long time as well, like doing something important and like being more featured. Thank you, Marvel Rivals, I guess. Next, out of all these black, white, and blood thing that Marvel has been doing, Predator, I think Spider-Man, they do these short stories that they're allegedly kind of like more intense, like this whole brand of the black, white, and blood, or whatever form of those words, where they do this. It's not monochromatic because it's always like there's like three colors, so trichromatic. I don't know, but this one piqued my attention because it's about Logan. It's not about Wolverine, right? It's about Logan. So these are gonna be stories about Wolverine when he was Logan. So after he was James, before he was Wolverine. So that sweet spot of all of us 90s kids that read Weapon X and had like this image of Wolverine being this tame wild guy who used to call Logan. So I like that they brought back the quote unquote brand of Logan to tell stories about him during this time of his career or his life. I read a press release and they're saying that they're gonna do some interesting and challenging stories during his Logan years, which are mostly untouched. We go for a character like Wolverine, we go all the way to the future. We old man, whatever he's going through right now. Like he does a bunch of crossovers with Cable, with Deadpool, whatever. Like he's a small part of the Uncanny X-Men team. Like he's so many things. But the building blocks of Wolverine are the Logan years. So I can't recommend it enough for anyone interested either in Logan or in Wolverine or in that sort of particular time of the X-Men where things were a bit more rough if you wanted to. And most of these side stories they do in these black, white, and blood books, mostly they are just okay to me. They feel like side stories, they read like side stories, and even if they have some interesting stuff in it, they're just like, yeah, just a side note, just a little thing on the side. But man, Wolverine is Wolverine. Keeps being one of the top tier characters in Marvel, and if they're gonna show us more stories from that age, I'm all for it. So Logan, Black, White, and Blood, issue number 1. More stories of Wolverine when he was just alcoholic Canadian going to take a rip down the someone in Canada and drinking beer. Next. Again, thank you, Marvel Rivals. This is my second main character as a healer. Of course, we're thinking about all all famous, very famous. I don't know. It's a new Luna Snow book, right, by Greg Pak. Uh, the story is quite interesting. Supposedly, Luna Snow is like doing like a comeback tour. Like she fell out of grace. It's like a weird description because like we never saw Luna Snow like falling out of fame. Like whenever she's appeared in the comics, she's just a big K-pop star. Like everybody just assumes that she is. And now, if somebody could correct me, the Luna Snow logo, that but literally a snow flake with a moon in it. That's from Marvel Rivals, right? Whatever you want to call it, this book to me is 100% a consequence of Marvel Rivals. I love Luna in the game. She's so fun to play. In the comics, she has never had like the spotlight. Ironically enough, so this is the moment. All of that Agent of Atlas nonsense and all of those team ups. I think I don't wanna like promise anything because I don't work for Marvel, but this is the spotlight we want for Luna. I'm really really looking forward to it because to someone like me, like if I play the character in the game, I would love for the character to have like more nuanced and deeper stories and more lore, you know for a character to be a full-on character. There are never gonna be people, of course. I'm not that deluded, but for a character to become more of a character. And I don't know, I really wish I could be a fly on the wall in these editor rooms and like see them like, oh, like Marvel Rivals, this character is pretty popular, eh? Like, okay, let's do a book because it's gonna sell because of the game. I wish I could hear that because it would give me some peace of mind and like, I don't know, see how they share ideas and they share kind of like the importance of these characters. Like to see like, okay, we're acknowledging what people like, we're acknowledging what people want. And of course this is a little callback to the fact that perhaps Black Cat is gonna be cancelled. But whatever, Luna Snow World Tour, is this the first really solo highlight for the character? I hope it is. I hope it's fun. I hope it rules, and I hope it gives us a more fully constructed Luna Snow character. The logo, though, I mean the whole Luna Snow, I don't get it. The L is like on top of it. It looks like it says LSU, Louisiana State University. The N is over the other N. I don't know. But anyways, Luna Snow World Tour issue number 1. Let's go. Time to put on a show. That was what I wanted to say. Next. Keep on with Marvel and Rivals. Kind of like adjacent. We know that the Psylocke in Rival is this version of Psylocke, Psy, which was created by Peach Momoko. And now they're releasing a book dedicated to Psy's multiversal journey. I don't know, man. What do you want me to say? Rivals again. We did it. Peach Momoko is really a great artist. I love her art. I love her designs. But, well, you gotta say that Psylocke fame has to be pushed by Rivals. And I don't know. Honestly, I'm gonna be super honest. I don't have a particular interest in this book besides Peach like drawing it. Besides Peach being the artist, I don't have any particular interest in this book besides to know more about these characters. It's the same that with Luna Snow. It's the same with that. These are like mid-tier to low-tier characters that suddenly they get a small spotlight. So you gotta take those. You gotta, you know, you gotta get into this, because even if these are quote unquote breakthrough characters, they're gonna fade away. I'm not being like a catastrophic person or like a negative person, but do you ever see Luna Snow being the leader of the Avengers as Captain Marvel did, or you know, you gotta say doubtful. You get those magic 8 balls, you check them, and it says like the chances are low or something. So enjoy it. Who knows what would happen tomorrow with Marvel Rivals? The game might collapse, and all of these characters are gonna be forgotten, and they're just gonna appear like a little, can you say, like cameo in some multiversal shit, or like, God forbid, another Agents of Atlas volume with some weird Asia Pacific issues that feel weirdly off. But anyways, side dimensional rivals, rivals by Peach Momoko. I'm really looking forward for these characters to not disappear. Hopefully, next. Speaking of characters about to disappear, Spirits of Violence. I was really hyped about it, and I've done a couple of updates about it. And okay, we got Danny Cage's sister being this new spirit, blah blah blah. I think it had drawn way too long. I don't, since I haven't read it, I'm just in the same position as any other consumer. I'm really hoping that we are coming through something interesting. I don't want to say it's been bad, but it has been hella slow. Like, we knew that Danny Cage's sister was gonna be involved, so why do they drag it so long? They should have given us something more strong. And then they had the whole Johnny Blaze's wife being part of it, kind of like an introspective journey into the minds of the spirits of vengeance, all of them. And, we have Robbie, which I was really looking forward to see back again. In summary, there are way too many characters. The story has been way too slow, and they have just introduced ideas. And you are like, okay, when is this gonna mean something more impactful? This might be it. Issue 4. The first 3 issues have been quite too much setup issues. So will this be the one where something is gonna, like, I don't think everything's gonna come together into something, but like something's gonna happen, right? Right? Spirits of Vengeance, issue 4. Next. New stories. The whole idea was about new stories, and I talked about Supergirl a couple of weeks ago, and how I was unsurprised by the direction it took, and how kind of like warm-ish it is, So it's just not new stories. It's a new story. Why are new stories the perfect jumping point? This is a weird sort of situation, in my opinion, as a comic book reader, because since it's the same creative team, you still need to acknowledge the general vibe you have created for the previous stories. And the current run of Supergirl, they have set up these back into teenage, insecure Supergirl, kind of like, and I don't want to say teenage issues, but they kind of are. She has her girlfriends, and she lives back on her parents' home, and like, there's like some romance. I think they really did try to frame it as kind of like this teenage girl sort of way. And I'm not saying this is bad, right? I'm not saying this is bad. There are really interesting characters. The new Kryptonian, Lena Luthor, like. No, it's not Lena. It's the daughter of Lex. I forgot her name. But they are really interesting characters, and the setup even though it sort of leans too heavily into that type of like teenage struggle kind of thing, I think it remains an interesting context, an interesting general context for the character to develop. So a new story basically means, okay, we already have this set up, but what else can we do with this character? So it's a new story. So even if you didn't really dig completely the previous ones, you gotta rescue whatever you think is rescue worthy, or like anything you liked about the current context of the character, and hope it will make for a better story. And that's what I'm doing. It's a new story arc for Supergirl. I'll read it. Next. We're almost there. So, the Turtles. One of the biggest things about this new run of the Turtles, my first in comic book version, was the whole thing that where's Splinter? I don't really want to spoil anything for people that are not reading this book, but the where's Splinter part is being revealed. And this is something that I personally, as I've said, I've never read the Turtles book. I only watched the animation and the movies. But I think if they are going where I think they're going with the character of Splinter, this is something I've never seen. And it would really make for a totally fresh TMNT experience. I'm not gonna spoil it, but it's all about Splinter, and Splinter is kind of like the cornerstone, like the foundation of the Turtles, and shaking a foundation of anything just makes for a lot of shaking. And it makes for potential changes, and it makes for really interesting reactions from everyone involved. So if you are remotely interested in the Turtles, this is not such a good jumping point for the book, because as I said, the beginning is Splinter has been like a shadow presence since the beginning of this run, so this is not really a safe jumping point, but it would be a good indicator for people who are interested in these characters to go back to the beginning and like come back to issue 14. There's not so much, 14 issues, like 100 pages or something. You can do it. But anyways, Turtles by IDW. I said it before, I'm not reading any of the other titles. There are like 6 or 5 of them. I'm only reading the main one, so I hope this one doesn't go too far off. Let's just hope so. Next, there's a new Tomb Raider book by Casey Gilly, who I've been reading recently in the Return to Sleepy Hollow, which I'm kind of like enjoying, sort of. But I did recommend Buffy the Last Vampire Slayer, and she did that one too. The point with Tomb Raider books are that they seem so generic. Even the who was it, like Gail Simone, I think she did a run on it. Even if the stories are interesting, they always try to grab onto the success of the latest games, and they do like stories in that universe by trying to make something new. I don't know. These characters based on games, they are almost always, this is what I'm going to say, these are weak characters, because even if the stories in their games are fun and are great, and the characters themselves are interesting, the gaming element of it is too much. That has always been the case. The gaming element is too much. You have way too much fun playing as the character and like having hours and hours of interaction with the character, even if it's not story wise. So in that sense, what Dark Horse has done with the character, to me, has always been lukewarm at best. there's something always missing when you're not playing as a video game character. But anyways, they announced during the Game Awards a remake of Tomb Raider 1 and a new kind of like chronological continuation of the character. I'm not sure. The Tomb Raider timeline gets fuzzy, but this book is part of the timeline of the games. I think before the reboot, I think Underworld. I think that these are two timelines. See, this shit is too confusing. This is too confusing for a character who just goes around and like discover ancient artifacts while discovering her dad's legacy of, I don't know, pillaging and plundering. But regardless, it's a new Tomb Raider, and I'm sure gonna check it out because Lara Croft is one of my favorite characters in the games. I love the games. Not the first three though. Not the first three, but the whole being alone in kind of like forgotten caverns and like old temples, deciphering mysterious puzzles, while fighting dinosaurs. That shit was awesome, but it has never translated well to any other media before besides games. So here's another shot at it. Tomb Raider Secret Artifacts. Well, looking forward to it. Next. When Robert Kirkman took over Transformers, I didn't know what to expect. Because Warren Johnson's run on it kind of like ended in a non-ending point. They are, of course, franchises that they are aiming to have for a long time. Something weird that happened in this new volume of Transformers is that they low-key did something that the animation did without any explanation, which was the random introduction of new Transformers out of the blue. Back then, of course, it was just to sell toys, and that was no mystery. There's a new Transformer, go buy it now. And the whole idea of them kind of like having the possibility to come back. In this current comic universe, all they need is some Energon and Teletran for them to come back. So since Kirkman took over, that is what has been happening. Just new characters popping up. Is this good or interesting? I'm not sure, but here's the main difference between that thing happening in the book and happening in the animation. In the animation, you didn't have to give these characters personality. In the animation, they were just like, okay, this is me, I do bombs, boom. Or like, okay, this is me, I raise, room. But this is not how it has to be done in the book. So they are running in parallel ways the story of what is happening in Cybertron and what is happening at Earth. They are running them parallel, and they are giving the characters kind of like reactions based on what they or where they are. So now these new characters that are popping up on Earth, they are necessarily, come on, bike. Sorry, it's a bike going through outside my window. These characters popping up on Earth, they are necessarily going to not shake, but they're gonna react to their Earth surroundings, and that's interesting. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that this current run of Robert Kirkman in Transformers, it's been slow, but it has a lot of potential. It's not as intense as the previous story arc was, but I'm not gonna like just say it's bad so early on, right? I'm just gonna enjoy the potential of these new characters. Where was Ballhead first introduced, though? I think the first time I saw him was in Transformers Prime. Was it called? I don't know, but it's Transformers, so It's gonna be a ton of new characters. Hopefully, as I said before, in this context, they're gonna get a proper character treatment, and it's gonna be relevant. The fact that they exist and the fact that they are there is gonna be more relevant than just another toy, right? Let's hope so. Next, we are at the end, and this is my book of the week because I make no secret that I love the Uncanny X-Men, my favorite X-Men book of like now the previous era, kind of. Shadows of Tomorrow, the new era of the X-Men, is already underway. I haven't read last week's books, not so many of them anyways, but we are going to see this Mutina character, this new character. Here's how it works. During the Age of Revelation, we saw the characters of this book 10 years from now and after the Age of Revelation. And now we're gonna see this character, which is kind of like important inside the Uncanny X-Men universe, coming back and sort of challenging the image that they introduced to us during the Age of Revelation. You see? So it's not directly kind of like the Age of Revelation is gonna like whatever happened in the Age of Revelation is gonna have a direct impact in the present. As I said before, that happened in some books like Iron and Frost, where they directly send a message from the future to the past, or in the main X-Men book where the same thing happened. There's a direct connection of the things that happened during the Age of Revelation with the present. For the Uncanny X-Men, it wasn't that much. We had the whole story with Gambit and what was it, the Immortal, Undying X-Men? We have the whole story with Gambit and Rogue, and we saw the adult versions of all the characters in the Uncanny X-Men. We saw all of that. They didn't send a message back to the present. But here's the thing, and here's how that can work without a direct message. With us having those images of these characters in the future, now we see how elements of the present can determine that outcome or not. You can say we can see a quote-unquote bad end because some of these characters were in weird places. We can see what kind of like a challenging situation can create. So let's play with that. Let's play with that potential future and see how it can be either the same or different based on the new events that we're going to introduce here. And the fact that they went back into a character that is deep into only this character's lore. This Mutina character and like this storyline is not directly for Wolverine, for Rogue, for Gambit. This is for the Uncanny X-Men team. So that's how you do it. Now you know where this character can potentially go in the future. And that shit is so fun. That is so fun. Like, let's go back to the present with this potential future, see how they change. And the team they had for the Uncanny X-Men is so good. It's just those 4 characters. I keep forgetting their names though, but the undying Japanese kid, the Argentinian boss, and the overpowered horse lady, and the stuttering awkward girl. For a book that I love so much, I think I should remember their names, but I'm really bad with names. But whatever. This is my book of the week. The Uncanny X-Men, back in the present, and the fact that they put the Shadows of Tomorrow tag on top of it. This whole cover, this cover is like Murder Me Mutina, the sequel, Uncanny X-Men, Shadow of Tomorrow. It's like, it's like overload, like sensory overload for someone that loves the book, that has enjoyed so much, and that overall I really enjoyed the Age of Revelation as well. So this is so exciting, just watching this cover and see everything that is in it. This is just so exciting. I love this character, I love this book. To me the X-Men book of the current generation era. can't wait to see what the Shadows of Tomorrow is gonna be. It's the X-Men. And that is almost an hour of recommendations. I'm doing timestamps on my video, so you can just hear or listen to my opinions on whatever book you are interested in. But I think this week is super loaded with a lot of fun news stories, as I said, interesting updates. It's a really good start of the year. We're like starting the, what's that saying? The jump running? No, hit the floor. Yeah, you hit the floor running, right? That is the saying. With a lot of interesting stuff for all of us mainstream comic book readers. I'm sorry I didn't read your 300-page graphic novel about, I don't know. I would have read it though if I had the time. But anyways, that's me for this week of comic books. Hell, I hope I can get to it soon enough. I'm always kind of like on average a week late. I try to read the important things before they come out, but like, hey, that's a lot. Anyways, take care, keep on reading, keep on enjoying, and I hope you find your new favorite around the corner and play some rivals. See you next week. Bye bye.